Hi, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed the day, and thanks a lot for joining our INSEAD talk about NFTs and digital product passports, the Arianee journey, which is based on the case study that we have written together with Frédéric Godart back in 2023 about the story of French technology startup Arianee. So my name is Katia Kachan. I am myself an INSEAD alumna, MBA 16D. I'm also the founder of INTHECASE Academy and research associate at INSEAD. And today we will be talking with Frédéric Godart, of course, of whom you know very well, Professor of Organizational Behavior at INSEAD, and Pierre-Nicolas Hurstel, CEO of Arianee, about the journey of the technology startup, of the French technology startup, which was actually the symbol of the transition from Web 2 to Web 3, on the market changes, right? So we will talk about the Web 3 technology, what it is, the blockchain as the basis of it, and how it has changed through these few years. And let's start maybe, first of all, with a bit recap. What is Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3? If you remember very well, back in 2000s, we were speaking about Web 1, right? It is the appearance of the internet, and it was the read-only web, where we were just looking at the information on the internet, and basically that's it. The Web 2 revolution actually was with the appearance of the social networks, Facebook, LinkedIn, you name it, right? And of course, cookies, where we, as the internet users, were identified by our email, and we started receiving advertisements based on our web browsing. And of course, Web 3, we started talking about the Web 3 revolution, which was the decentralized web. And what does it mean? It is the web journey where we were identified by the wallets, the digital wallets, and also by the digital asset ownership, if you remember such things as NFTs. And Arianee actually was a company and is a company that had two main use cases at that moment of these NFTs. First is digital product passports, who were an identification passport for the products, for the physical products, and also loyalty tokens. We also, if you had a chance to read the case study, but if you not, we will share it with you. We did a use case of Breitling, a luxury watchmaker, who actually initiated, who was one of the first companies adopting this technology, digital product passports, to their business model, and who used it also as the connection to their customers. So I'm very happy to have now Frédéric and Pierre-Nicolas with us, speaking about the transformative journey of Arianee. Frédéric, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Katia. Great introduction of Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. And Pierre-Nicolas, welcome to our webinar. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. So a case we wrote back in 2023. We started working together a little bit before. And let me remind everyone how we're going to do this, right? So we're going to chat, fireside chat. And then I would ask the audience, our small but dedicated audience, to ask questions in the chat, right? And after 40 minutes, around 40 minutes, I will read the questions and I will ask Pierre-Nicolas to answer those questions from the audience. Pierre-Nicolas, so welcome. I would like to start with a question. I would like to start with you know, and we'll talk about it in the case, but understanding, you know, back in 2018, when you founded Arianee, started being the CEO, what was your vision? I mean, what was it like to ride the Web3 wave at the time?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Frédéric, Katia, and thanks to all the team for welcoming us and, you know, studying our case. We didn't talk about Web3 at that time. We didn't even talk about NFTs. When we started, the guy who wrote the ERC 721, which is the norm for NFTs, collaborated with us. Very simply, he was one of our advisors. No one thought that this would become completely crazy the way it became crazy. And we had let's say we had two intuitions. The first one was with economies becoming circular, we're going to need to add data to products that last. If not, the brands are going to lose contact with the people buying their goods in secondhand. And so we had this vision, very business driven, of circularity, not at all driven by environmental constraints, really driven by a business opportunity around the value, the residual value of long-lasting goods. And this was in correlation with the fact that we are French, and there's one market who's doing that very well, and that's accessible for French, is the luxury market.
Luxury, yes.
Yeah,
Our passion.
so we had the possibility, and that's funny because we all the co-founders, we used to live in New York at that time. But we were like, okay, there's this problem, there's the possibility to access this market, interesting. And then at the same time, that was the intersection of the technology, the availability of the Ethereum blockchain at that time was becoming, thanks to NFTs actually, because there was the first NFT collections and people were starting to think that the Ethereum blockchain and what the technology around could be available outside of financial use cases. And Fred, my co-founder, Frédéric Montagnon, has been really into crypto since day one, 2011, 12. And really what has always interested him is how decentralized systems can be built by communities, by sharing code in an open source mode, in something that in a way that is completely different than how big tech are built. So we started from these two elements, the business opportunity with circularity, with a go-to-market possible on one side, and on the other side, the opportunity of the technology readiness, let's say.
So you saw a business opportunity and thought, NFTs potentially are an answer to this. And that dimension of circularity is fundamental. So we're going to revisit that, especially when we talk. And then something happened at some point. There was a bubble and something happened to the bubble. And when did you realize, and it's funny because we were writing the case as it happened, but when did you realize that things were changing very deeply? What was that moment when you realized that? And then we talk about what you did actually to deal with it.
Well, yeah. So first, the bubble is something, it's I'm going to take a parallel because at that time we were talking about the metaverse and the Web3. And I think the day Mark Zuckerberg went online and said, my company is going to be called Meta, people were like, oh, what's going to happen? Are we now going to have like an avatar that owns digital things in a virtual world? And what are these digital things? Oh, there are NFTs. Okay, craziness around NFTs. And there, what's really, now with some, some time to step back, what is so hard, it was a complete mirage. It was like if we were in a metaverse in a way. At some point in 2021, someone gave us like a headset, and a parallel reality started during 2 or 3 years with all elements to believe in it. Meaning, like, from a day to another, I was asked to talk to every executive committee in Paris. I spent 2 hours in the executive committee room of L'Oréal with CEO, DG, or everyone.
Yeah, you were in high demand. I remember that, right? You were in very high demand at the time.
A level, everyone wanted to talk to us. American venture capital funds were calling, making proposals with crazy valuations. It was like I had you know, I didn't have 1 minute. I was going from one thing to another. And that made us believe that our technology that we thought about for a very specific case around, you know, adding data to physical goods could be used to many other things. And the demand was crazy. And so I'll go fast, but this, we should have, there's one lesson, we'll come back to that. We had the elements to understand that that was not real, but there was so much that we could not listen to ourselves enough, and we took this fake reality on. We took the money that was coming with in terms of capital increase. We took the revenues that were coming in, and so we had a, I don't know what's the translation in English for feu de paille situation. So it's like something that went up, and all of a sudden,
a flash in the pan, I think, is
yeah.
something.
And all of a sudden, it crashed. It crashed when people started to realize that the craziness around the financial bubble in crypto was very fragile, with the fall of FTX, all collections NFTs dropping. And all of a sudden, all these brands who thought at some point that they were going to have some additional revenue streams based on selling digital BS things, woke up being like, oh, no, I just can't make money like that. Okay, bye. And so everything stopped. Like everything stopped. Like every single contract that we thought were recurring, that we had been good enough to sell on several years, not to position us as an agency, really selling the use of our tech to generate NFTs, distribute them, communicate with owners, the exact same tech, not at the heart of what we do with products, but with a lot of custom interfaces and experiences that cost us a lot of money to build, and all of a sudden crashed. And what happens then is that we've been too slow to take action. I think now, you know, looking back, I think we should have said,
and Pierre-Nicolas, sorry to interrupt, but was it because you were very busy riding actually the wave and busy answering calls that you didn't think about it? What was the, or didn't act on it rather?
Because I think we thought that by doing more and keeping our firepower, we would be able to change, you know, the focus, and we tried to take people that we had hired to do digital loyalty, and we are like, let's look at maintenance in the B2B sector, and let's go back to the core, but opening it to different. And it's not possible.
Right.
The people you've hired, the way we've had organized the company,
right,
we couldn't just like switch. What we should have done after 2 calls of contracts dead, we should have fired everyone right away and restarted. And we took a little while until we adjusted our resources. But it's so hard to figure out that you were in a mirage, that you had the information to understand that it was a mirage, but still you did not follow your guts and, you know, your deepest, and you went through it and it stops, and you still want to believe in it because you committed to so many things. And so that's the hard moment.
Yes, and that's you know, we talk about cognitive biases and organizational behavior. I mean, that's super interesting how it plays out in entrepreneurship. And yet, Pierre-Nicolas, you survived, right? So there was, and that's good. I mean, I'm happy about this. So it's great to have you here. And because there was a pivot, right? At some point, you pivoted. And that was a very interesting, and I remember we talked about it a couple of years ago, but there was a very interesting thing happening in the world, which is DPP, right? So, and especially through, you know, EU regulation. So how did you manage that pivot? What did you do there?
Okay, so we had a kind of a double pivot to do. So we had to accept the fact that all the revenues coming from outside our use case, which is adding data to goods that last, a passport, a certificate, we used to call it many names. So we had to first accept that all revenues outside of that were done. So, which means that we would have to compensate that by growth somewhere else. So that's number one. Then inside
And
our
sorry to interrupt, but I would like to put an emphasis on the fact that actually it went literally almost to zero, correct? I mean, there was
no, we went to zero on that
zero.
revenue
Okay,
line.
not
on that revenue line. That revenue line does not exist anymore. So, and you know, when you are a VC-backed startup, growth is number one KPI. So this is like now, if again, we thought growth was a number one KPI. Now I have just the rule of 40 in mind, which I should have had a long time ago. Okay, I should never have believed that the only thing that defines a startup is the level of growth and high multiplicators on recurring revenues. We went from 30 times 30 on recurring revenue for companies like us to times 6 times 5. We went from you can burn as much cash as you want to you have to be profitable. So we wanted to avoid stopping the growth, or we wanted to find growth, and we had this first revenue line going down, and then we had to deal with another pivot, which actually the solution to the two problems is the same, but the other thing was that our positioning in luxury was getting to a size and a place that with the competitive landscape was becoming hard to expect more revenues in luxury. We work with 3-4 of the top players, and we have and others. It's probably going to be very hard to have others at short term. So we had to find a solution to that. And what we did was, instead of thinking that if we have a client in the luxury sector, we can go to every other subsidiary to propose the same thing or to propose different things, we looked at the kind of products we're working with and that are working well. Watches. We're very good with watch brands. Why? Because watches are being repaired, they have warranties, they change hands, they have a history. And so we're like, what else has the same characteristics? And we called Darty to talk about
appliances. Appliances are like watches, yeah.
Yeah. And at the beginning, we called them and others, and they were like, "No." We were so much identified with blockchain NFTs. They were like, "No, no, no. With blockchain NFT, we have this. We're going to do loyalty, etc." But then, when this calmed down, these people came back and said, "Yeah, let's talk about maintenance. Let's talk about passports." Because one thing had happened in the middle is that our acronym NFT disappeared, but a new acronym appeared with the EU deciding that starting 2027 and until 2030, progressively, every sustainable good sold on the market, on the European market, would have to have a digital product passport. So this comes from the ESPR regulation, Eco Design for Sustainable Product Regulation, which is similar in some ways to AGEC in France. The idea being, we want people to make better choices, educated choices when they choose. So we want them to have information, and then we want product to become service platforms to catalyze the transition from linear economies to circular economies. In a world where resources are limited, we want people who produce goods to sell services, to grow, and not just produce more goods and go for a program or schedule obsolescence. And so the regulator decided that. And so all of a sudden, good news, which, it's good sometimes. Good news, an idea that we had in 2017, 10 years after, the EU is making it mandatory for everyone to have, I wouldn't say your product, but at least something similar. And now comes another thing, is like, you have to fight against the blockchain image and NFT image. Because if one thing someone who leads IT in a big corp was happy about at the end of Web3 was, I was right, centralization is good, we don't need blockchain. And so now you have to fight with this image and try to show what are the advantages of blockchain. So I'm trying to tell the story with a lot of details, so I hope I'm not losing
No,
anyone.
it's great. It's great. And I think, and tell me what you think about the scale and the size of this new EU regulation around DPPs, right? It's I think we need to put enough. It's everything almost, right? Any product, any appliance, any, how do you feel this is going to potentially also impact your strategic positioning? I mean, do you feel that you can deliver across the board? And you mentioned that luxury was your where you started. That's the first question. And then you mentioned the image, right? We're talking about the image of blockchain as being, and let's call a spade, right? So some people would say it's a scam. How do you deal with that image, right? So the first question is about the scale. How would you handle that scale? I mean, can you go anywhere in any industry? And two is like, how do you deal with the image of blockchain?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, the scale we can do a lot. The good thing when you were born on an enterprise positioning is that we've learned to deal with very large organizations and their requirements in terms of technology. And I mean, this is different business than SMEs. Like what you learn, the way you have to be, the type of infrastructure you need to have, the type of people, etc., the capabilities. Sometimes, when they run tests on us, they run tests on us like they run a test on e-commerce that is going to sell millions of products every day. So you have to have the scale just to pass the tests before the products are deployed and the technology is deployed. So when you've learned that, you're ready. So that's the good thing. We're scalable. We can handle a lot, and we know it because just the tests that we have to swallow. Then the image, one of the good things we've done during all this time and this mirage is that we've built a strong brand. People like you want to do cases with us. We had a lot of press. Anyone, I think, who's searching anywhere in the world for a company doing digital passports or things like that is gonna find us. So we built a strong brand equity.
Yes, and you said globally, which is interesting, right? Because also
Absolutely.
a global community of practitioners.
Globally, we have inbound email from the US, from everywhere, all the time, for tons of questions that are not always on point, and we don't take them all. But yes, we exist globally. Then we have two things in our images: blockchain and luxury. And sometimes it's like when people have something in mind, it's very hard to take it out. It's like at the beginning of our story when people thought that we were doing traceability with blockchain, like the chicken with Carrefour and IBM at that time. And I remember explaining what we are doing for 1 hour, and at the end, someone saying, it's really great, being able to trace the suppliers like that. I'm like, no, that's not what we do. That's not what we do at all. And people are so stuck in what they think. So yes, people think we are a blockchain solution for luxury. And that's a problem because obviously we use blockchain for what is good about it: encryption, decentralization, interoperability, need to know access, things that are critical when you want to share data in open environments. But we're also an API-based infrastructure with a lot of cloud. If I show you the diagram of my architecture, our technological architecture, you will see tons of boxes and a little blockchain box on the right. It's not just blockchain. We don't even have our own blockchain. We operate on a public blockchain for part of what we do. So we have to explain that. And now we have to explain that we can, to the people who say all the time, I can do without blockchain, yes, you can do without AI, you can do without a lot of things. The question is, what can we do best with?
Yes, and I see a lot of questions appearing. So thank you for this, dear audience. When we discussed, we prepared, you mentioned that cloud or similar services could be potentially competition for you. What would you like to say about this? How are the solutions you offer potentially could be more appealing or better at addressing some challenges?
Yeah, well, look, the problem, the good thing with compliance is that, okay, everyone is going to have to do it. The bad thing with compliance is comply is not a vision. If you want to just comply, you're going to look for the most affordable solution with the limited features just to, avoid the stick, okay, and not get the carrot, if I can say. I think we built a solution that is first designed for business value with two main elements: consumer brand connection and possibility of interactions, which is the growl of everyone selling something that lasts. And second, everything around the topic of circular economy, durability, traceability of the history of the product, and all the business opportunities that come with this around the question of the decoupling of growth. So it's a very important topic. I don't know if the participants are familiar with that, but we have a paper on our website on this topic that we wrote with a former member of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. The question is, if resources are limited and we want to meet the planetary goals, producing always more goods and convincing people to buy them and throw the rest out is not going to work. But at the same time, we need jobs, taxes collection, so we need the economy to continue to grow. There's a solution to that, which is to develop a service economy based on the circulation of goods and to decouple the growth from the production of new goods. So we're not degrowth people. We want companies to grow, but we would love to support with technology the possibility for companies to do more business without producing more goods. And so these two elements are very strong: consumer interaction and circular economy. And I think for these two elements, we have a better product than something that would just check the box of compliance. Okay, but now we're going to have to fight. This is not going to be, this is a market that is starting. The notion of DPP solution provider, the category is going to emerge. We're going to have to be either better or less expensive. And the less expensive is not how we've built the business, the product.
And we have some questions, actually. I was reading them related to this point, especially how you relate to the EU. It's interesting. Something that strikes me is like you're talking when we discuss like what is your market now, and you just qualified it. DPP solution provider. That's how you would.
Yes.
It's a totally new market. Am I right? I mean Okay, so totally we have something going fast. Yeah,
totally new market. So the notion is emerging basically from the industry normalization entities that have been commissioned by the EU, by the European Commission, to define the norm of the DPP system, of the future DPP system. So when there's a regulation like that, the EU is asking normalization bodies like AFNOR, Sensenelec in Europe, to gather experts, industrial experts, to propose how it's going to work. And then if the proposition is fine, it becomes regulation. If not, the EU builds some weird things made by bureaucrats who don't get it. So hopefully industry people have good incentive to agree on something. And we take part in this work. And so the proposition that has been made by the Sensenelec and that is going to be pushed is to have two options, basically economic operators in the EU language, brands, manufacturers, OEMs, retailers, will have the responsibility of creating the digital passport, registering it with the EU, making it available to users and circular economy players. And they could do that by themselves or use a DPP solution provider. So they have the choice. And then they will have to back up this data for a very long time. And for that, they will be mandatory, use a DPP solution provider. So there's going to be a category. You will have to be probably certified to be a digital product passport solution provider. We would love the certification to be mandatory, but obviously a lot of people are lobbying in the other way to make it as low as possible in terms of entry barrier. So now we're talking category, entry barriers, mandatory possibilities. Okay, now we have a market that is this is gonna be our market, basically.
No, and this is fascinating. I mean, you know, you had to deal with that bubble, you know, that burst, and but in a way you were uniquely positioned to be at the start of this new market and even define some of its key features. So for us, it's fascinating. Obviously, we need to update the case now for the new version.
We need the V2.
Exactly, V2. But the question I had for you is, I mean, we've been following you, also you personally, right? And in our view, this is really a story of resilience, and I'm pretty sure a lot of entrepreneurs in the audience would love to hear you as an entrepreneur, and then also the organization. What can you tell us about resilience and leadership? What are the things that you did? What are the ingredients of your survival? What could you share with us?
So the first thing is not being alone. I have with Fred Montagnon, my co-founder, and he's the chairman now. We're really we always have several pairs of eyes to look at things. That's absolutely essential. Then you have to believe to remain optimistic, you know, whatever happens. Resilience is not always something about fighting, you know. Some people are like, you know, this is not something about strength, it's something about fluidity. It's about the capability to adapt, I think, to hardship without falling, and to embrace optimistic things without repeating the error from the past. Honestly, there are so many things I will never do exactly the same. I'll probably over managed in some areas of my business, like marketing, image, sales, etc. And I gave too much, I would say, autonomy to finance, because I have very senior people there. So I would not do that again. I would listen more also to my co-founders. Frédéric, since day one, was telling me, this is not going to be recurring revenue. These brands are dragging us to something that is not going to be us. And at the same time, let's take it. But I should have listened to you know, small signals. And then at some point, you have to make decisions. You have to accept that you're not going to be 50, that you're going to be 30 or 15. Now we are 15. You have to accept that you're going to do things and redo things that you were, you know, that you had stopped doing. You have to accept that you're going to spend so much less, that a lot of things are going to be different. And also leverage what has been produced. Be like, okay, we did a lot of things, but inside that, a lot of the things we produced, we can still use them. Our tech is over-featured today, so that's good. Our brand equity is huge compared to who we are, the size we have, etc. So we need to leverage that. So it's like not throwing the baby with the water bath. You know, it's like, okay, it's hard. We made mistakes, but we did a lot of good things. Let's leverage them. And then you need some success. You know, when we were able last year to sign our deal with Darty, the PRO ecosystem, and etc., which is, by the way, our largest deal in size ever. It was at the same time the largest deal, the confirmation of the pivot. It was everything. So you at some point, to activate resilience, you need to be right on something. You can't be, you know, you can't just have the wind in front of you all the time and survive only psychologically if you don't have some confirmations. And so you have to get them. You have to search for them and get them. And when you get the beginning of one, you have to push into.
Well, thank you so much. Very inspiring. Now there is, we talked about the Web3 wave, and there is another wave right now. I mean, perhaps we should call it a tsunami. Exactly, which is AI. And I said, I'm sure the audience would love to hear about your thinking there. But not only, the industry or AI, is going to change things strategically, but also how AI is impacting your organization and your day-to-day work as a leader.
Okay, so a couple things. First of all, the way things are unfolding right now with AI are pretty much the contrary of everything we've tried to build differently technologically. There's the open source that is common, but a lot of the business is really being centralized by big tech, and we've been trying to fight against that with decentralization. So when I see AI, it's kind of bittersweet, It's like, okay, it's incredible, it's going to change everything, but this is more and more concentration of power in the hands of a very, very small number of people who are unregulated and who are amassing a level of wealth that is going to, give them the possibility to do whatever they want. So that's the first thing. Then what we're able to do today technologically with our product and technology team is faster and better than what we used to do a year ago with 3 times more people. So without that wave at this moment, I don't know if we would be here. I don't know if we would have been able to actually do this pivot, because you're going to change a lot of things, and at the same time you have to be way less people because of the situation. So that's so yes, AI is helping us a lot in many ways, technologically, but also in terms of capability to digest information from the outside, understand who's coming to us, and be able to, have in 2 hours an analysis and a podcast, vocal podcasts explaining, what is the person we're going to be talking to tomorrow morning. On the other hand, it is far from what we've tried to change with Web3. I would encourage everyone to read L'heure des prédateurs, or Le temps des prédateurs. I think it's L'heure des prédateurs, the last Dan Polly book, which really should be a wake-up call for everyone. Yes, it's amazing, but the level of problem and the word tsunami is probably good, because there's going to be water everywhere. So who's going to survive?
Okay, great, thank you. Well, that exactly, that was inspiring, a little bit scary as well.
Yeah.
But just thank you for raising those critical points. Interesting how AI basically help you be nimble, and you mentioned agility as a as a way to survive, right? So that really helps you there. So thank you very much for sharing this and your story. All right, so we're right on time. There were a lot of questions in the chat, and Pierre-Nicolas, I'm going to read some of them. There are a lot, so we could spend at least 5 hours addressing them all. Some of them very technical, some of them humorous as well. So I think we will go through all of them. One of them which strikes me, which is, because you've been through this Web3 wave, you said it was difficult, FTX, people stopped calling you, and now, luckily DPP is around the corner, or is already there. What is there anything you could see beyond DPP, something else, right? And we talked about AI, but what do you think could be the next chapter for Arianee, actually?
So, I'm going to bounce back on one of the things that I see in the questions also. What we've tried to achieve using blockchain was some missing points in the possibility to make digital systems work together. Like, for example, the fact that an entity has a digital signature, that it's validated when you use the Arianee protocol. The brand or the issuer of the passport has an identity in a smart contract. tomorrow, this is going to be in the business wallet with the ADAS2 regulation. The passports, the way we saw it ourselves being a token in a wallet, tomorrow can be a verifiable credential in a citizen wallet. So there are lots of things that cryptography, interoperability, data protection that are going to become part of a wider architecture that maybe will not necessarily need the use of blockchain to be operated. And so I think there's a huge opportunity, and for us, obviously, to adapt to that, okay, to make sure that we will be, if not only compatible, but embracing all of this, but also exploring the possibilities. We've been, fighting for people keeping control of their data to be interoperable, to foster collaboration in economic spaces, making sure that identities are validated and that you can trust someone who produced a digital element. And all of that is going to become more and more normal. And so, yes, data spaces, ADAS2, etc. But this is not there yet. So the problem is always, and that's a key question I'm sure that you will have, how do you be on, how being right is worth nothing, It's being on time that matters. You can be right 10 years before, who cares?
Yeah.
Still don't have a company.
Yeah, we know that from history. It's actually a painful experience.
So we, as a company, have to learn how to be on time. So we have to stop looking always beyond and look at what's available now. I had a meeting with a big company this morning who were telling me, yeah, we focus on this because the regulation is this. And then my answer was, yeah, we're still crazy enough ourselves to work on what's going to happen in 2 years. But at some point, we started by working on 10 years, now 2 years. I'll be fine when I'll be working on what's happening now.
Very good, thank you. As you know, people can vote for the questions. So I'm looking at those who have the most votes. One is about lobbying. It's interesting because I especially for the EU, but say you need to lobby open AI, right? So I guess that's an interesting. What do you think on that one?
I don't understand.
Okay, I guess it's about the connections and how to push actually some players. But there is one from Water that is intriguing and potentially a bit technical. But let's see how we get. How does Arianee obtain its upstream information from material suppliers? And is standardization of input information taking place? How can you address that one?
Yeah. So we don't do brands and manufacturers and economic operators obtain this information. We support them with technology. So, for example, a factory, working as a supplier for a manufacturer can upload structured information about the product, and we're going to facilitate the formatting of this data to make it available, which answers the rest of the question. Yes, standardization, not of input, but output data is very important. The consumer, at the end, the people who read, whether they are consumers, regulators, or participants, stakeholders in the circular economy, they need to understand and have things that are comparable. So I would say that the input is something, but the output must be standardized. And that's always a question. Where does the data come from? How do you trust it? Blockchain is not good to do that. You need independent verification. You need auditors. You need companies to change their relationship with their suppliers to take back control. And we need tools to empower these suppliers to make it easy for them to share the data. And then all of that ends into the possibility to create this passport and put the data inside.
Thank you. I mean, I think 2 points as well I wanted, and obviously if you see something in the question that you would like to address, we'll talk about it. When we talk about compliance is a strong word, right? It's about legal frameworks and potentially consequences. So one of the questions, and I would see like similar themes in the questions, is how do you help firms be compliant? How can they be compliant with your solution with the regulation? How does that play out?
Well, they can't because the regulation is not set. The ESPR, what the delegated acts category by category have not been published. So I can't claim that you're compliant with something that is not the law. What I can say is we take part in every normalization work. We are very close from everyone we can at every European level possible. And we can also guarantee to our clients that the day the regulation is set, we will be compatible. We can guarantee that by contract. But I can't tell you now that you're compliant with something that is not enforced.
Out of curiosity, how would you work with legal firms, or how would that work in that context?
So today the two bodies that are shaping the elements of the compliance are the normalization bodies, AFNOR and Sensenelec at European level, and the EU Commission. So we work very closely from these two bodies. We are part experts in the normalization groups, and we go to every single event at the EU. We talk to the people directly. The EU is not a cloud. This is like people in buildings with roles and building things, and a lot of them are not only extremely skilled and very strong professionals in the topic they cover, but also very nice people, very open to talk, and super happy to discuss with industry people. And so and then at some point a text is going to be published, and we will read the text and we will make it work.
Interesting. So the human touch as well, I mean, with regulators is important.
Always. And again, a question and a difference, I think that Europe should be building against, big tech centralization. And you will see at the end of the Empoli book, for the people who have not read it and who will read it, this continent has an opportunity to build something that is different in the way we interact, that is different in its capacity to be more resilient to environmental change and better in social terms, but also to have the possibility to have human, real discussions with real people and not just with machines.
Yeah. Now, if we dream a little bit, I mean, the DPP could be an amazing, an amazing innovation, right? And a lot of things could happen around it. I mean, you mentioned that a little bit, but beyond compliance, I mean, what could we do with it? I mean, what are the spaces we could explore?
So there are two directions, two very interesting directions: transition to circular economy and administrative simplification and like one market, the one market goal, to take down the barriers, making Europe, in fact, 27 markets when it should be one. So the first one, the circular economy, the possibility to have a data about a product, to push services through here, to encourage people to buy additional things and make the product a service platform, is really the strong opportunity. Goods will have to last longer. The demography is not going in the direction of having people buying more goods that last. Technology is making good last longer. Brand image and brand equity make people build better goods. So at some point, if good last longer, you just sell less. This is with a demography that is stagnant or going down, you just sell less. So if you want growth, we need circularity to happen. We need to create value based on the circulation of the goods. We need to create services on top of the possession of the goods. This is critical, and the passport is really going to be the place where all of that is going to be written, where you can start this journey, where all of this is tracked, and where you can measure as well that a good can last longer. So that's opportunity number one. Opportunity number two is administrative simplification. The vision of the EU is shifting with DPP from pure circularity tool to administrative simplification and global market, I would say, openness. So the idea that every single thing that is linked to conformity, the possibility to sell a product in the EU, all these elements could be gathered in one single gateway that is the digital passport, is probably going to be a big shift, allowing you to sell a product anywhere in Europe thanks to the informations that are inside the passport, ease the custom declaration and even transactions. So all of that is really what should drive the value beyond compliance, circular economy and administrative simplification and distribution in the EU. And just a quick answer, the watch industry in Switzerland, it's not the question where the good comes from. If you sell it in the EU market, you comply. That's it.
Yeah, that was my next question, actually. Obviously, given the passion for the industry, it's about the extraterritoriality of the DPP and the regulation, right? It would apply globally as long as you sell
No.
something.
It does not
No?
apply globally. I mean, if you want to sell a watch in Russia without a passport,
You
no
can.
problem. But when you sell this watch in Germany, there's the passport. That's it. So
Okay.
no extraterritoriality, but
Okay.
the origin of the good does not matter. What matters is where you sell it. If it's on the market, the European market, it will have to be compliant.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, we're almost done with time flies, but there is this question also, and I mentioned the cloud and about the notion of data sovereignty, right? Going back to the geopolitical space. So what would you say here? What's your
Well, I would say that data sovereignty is key. I would say that this is the only answer to avoiding a complete endless dependence to big tech. So what does that mean? Exactly how we can really deploy that. We strongly believe that what blockchains are offering in terms of decentralization and capabilities is really a key element. But even on that, the US are taking the lead with actually not only nice things. And I did not answer well earlier to your question, but I would understand people who would say there's a problem with this blockchain thing, the way it is used by people and now officials in governments like the US president pose an ethical problem. But at the same time, the possibility to decentralize information and have people control it and verify who created it is really important. So what's the solution to data sovereignty? Probably open source code, avoiding companies to own the code of key features that are for the common good. Then data control by the economic operators and the end users with cryptography. And so hopefully these principles will become the norm in every technological architecture and avoid in the future dominant positions to emerge from data centralization. I think the technology is here. We will need regulation as well.
Okay, thank you. And many technologies also competing for the same space, right? So we'll see how. But you're in a position to shape also that market, so that's quite exciting. Right, so it's time for us to conclude. I mean, there are a lot of questions. One of them is about the title of the book. I guess we can share that later on with the audience, and also if you're interested in the case. So.
I'll put it in the chat.
In writing, okay. Couple of things because I was thinking about the case. We've been following you for years, and we want to update all this. Perhaps 3 takeaways from me, and Pierre-Nicolas, if you would like also to share 3 points, right, with the audience before we conclude. 3 takeaways, something crisp, right, and some highlights. So I would say there are 3 things for me. One is the resilience, right, through hype cycles. You said something very interesting. It's like it's not enough to be right. You need the timing matters, right? So you need those two together. It's a strong story of survival. I mean, obviously we're so happy that you're still around, right? That makes us super happy. But pivoting is not a weakness, right? Pivoting is something fundamental that you need to embrace from the start. What you said about the blind spots and the cognitive biases, I guess, fantastic. Fantastic. And then this notion of Web3, DPP, and then potentially the role that AI could play in all this is interesting because and one of the questions was also related to this is that notion of how technologies evolve over time, right? How they transform themselves, they stay, some of it stay. We keep some things and then we move on. So these are my three takeaways. What would you like to share in 2-3 minutes, Pierre-Nicolas, please?
At the end of the day, there's always a notion of balance, you know, like extreme situations don't last long. So that's a good indication that I would always now have in mind. This is if everyone is telling you that growth is the only driver and you know, multiples are by 30, this is not normal. This is too high to be normal. And so you should be looking at, okay, what would be the more balanced opinion? And always listen to the people who, in these situations of craziness, are telling you, this is not normal. This is too much. These valuations, this capability to burn. So listen to small signals, but also that's what I would keep. Go after more balance. That would be number one. Number two, be sharper and faster on hard decisions. This is hard to say no. This is hard to let go. This is hard to let go people. This is how to not to take a client. And you have to. And you have to say no. You have not to take this contract, and you have to let these people go the moment you think about it, not when it's too late. And then the third thing would be more personal. I think to cope with so much uncertainty, and you know, up and downs and etc. You need to have a very strong personal balance between work, family and friends, and things you just do for yourself. And that's really the way I try to balance with this three feet, you know, architecture. And you know, I like to say when I come back on Monday morning, can be as hard as it's a new week. I reset completely during the weekend, thanks to the people I love, my family, but friends as well. It's not just family. Being too focused on family can also be a trap. So having friends, people that, you know, are not, you know, they're completely outside of your family area. And then very important, whatever you do, whether you're you know, head of a company or whatever, and mainly for women who are suffering from their you know, husbands who don't work enough for the family. Take time for you, build things for yourself, take care of yourself personally, just do things that are just for you, and challenge the statu quo. And I think when you have that, things that are just for you, whether sports or creativity or whatever the hell, food or music, and then family and friends, and then work, then you're more able to resilience. So that would be my third thing.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much, Pierre-Nicolas. We're perfectly on time. It was great that you could share all these insights at the crossroads, I would say, of entrepreneurship, organizational behavior, strategy, technology, finance, marketing, all of this together. It was really a pleasure to have you. I hope we'll keep discussing as things unfold. And I would like also to thank the INTHECASE team and our small but dedicated audience today. Thank you and see you very soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.